So we've got taking care of our body, sleep, exercise, nutrition, and breath this week. The 4 pillars of being. We're going to learn some really interesting things about sleep. So these 4 things have a powerful effect on our mind. You know, it's really interesting that about tons of energy, the meditation we'll do at the end of class is based on the idea that a ton of energy is coming up from our body to our mind and influencing our mind. So when we can help our body feel better, we can help our mind feel better. In fact, we could start with it. Let's roll our shoulders and kind of stretch a little bit, reach up and down and get yourself into a moderately comfortable position. And let me go ahead and show you this breathing exercise. And then maybe you could spend listening to the lecture doing the breathing exercise. And what it essentially consists of is a longer exhale than inhale. Okay, so we'll breathe into the count of 4 through our nose, and then we release to the count of 5 or 6. All right, and you can do the counting, and the counting can happen at whatever pace works for you. And you want to work with the pace of your breath, but you're going to make them longer and longer so they're slower. So you want to slow down the breathing process. And this is called heart rate variability breathing. And what it does is it synchronizes your lungs with your heart. And when your lungs and your heart are in synchrony, then your body starts to get very, very relaxed. So your immune system works the most when you're sleeping, because we're not using energy anywhere else. So you can imagine, you know, it makes sense when you look at the biophysiology of our body. Our emotional brain is recalibrated during sleep. So when you have those negative dreams, your mind is actually expelling that trauma from your body. Sleep is nocturnal therapy. So having bad dreams is actually, now we can get stuck in a PTSD state with the bad dream. That can happen, kids that get regular nightmares and things like that. And we can use active imagination to help. Do any of you guys have kids, or anybody know anybody who's had any nightmares? You can actually use active imagination to move through and transform a nightmare. For example, a kid wakes up and said, I had a nightmare about a bear chasing me. I was so scared. And then you start talking to your kid about, well, what would you need to be able to fend off the bear, right? What would you need to be able to feel safe with the bear? Well, I need the super sword of you know, whatever show they're watching. And so you talk about, okay, and then you have them imagine it, and you have them imagine in their mind's eye, relax them a little bit. Okay, breathe and relax for a moment, and then imagine the bear, and imagine now you're chasing the bear away. And so you let their imagination process through transforming the end of the dream. We can do that same thing ourselves. So with our, so when we have dreams, we're actually processing emotions from the day, our stressors and fears and things like that from the day. The majority of dreams are negative for people all around the world, and they think it has this function. Our hunger and digestive system is calibrated when we sleep. So that's why when we don't get enough sleep, we tend to get hungry, and people eat more when they're sleep deprived. And our brain solidifies learning and memories when we sleep too. It's like the road crew comes in and paves over the highway of the neurons of the things that we've been learning during the day. So again, immune system repair. There are certain disease-fighting substances that are created only when we sleep. This is a little bit more information about sleep and the immune system. So sleep is very powerful for the immune system. In particular, there's a particular phase of sleep called delta, when our immune system is at peak functioning. It's functioning more in that phase of sleep than any other time during the day. Our hormones are regulated, particularly the hormone leptin, which relates to appetite regulation. So essentially, the body is looking at things from an energetic point of view. And if it's not going to get the energy restoration for sleep, it's going to go look from it from another source, like food. So that's why we have an increased appetite and reduced impulse control related to food when we don't get the right amount of sleep for our physiology. And the easiest way to figure that out is to go camping. Sleep consolidates memories, which is really interesting. Well, when you go camping, you have less lights, right? And you tend to be more attuned to nature's, well, you'll see why in a few minutes. So sleep is when our memories get consolidated, not just that the memories are consolidated and the road crew comes in and paves over the highway of what you studied. So you'll actually do better on a test if you study and sleep and take the test than if you study and take the test. And they've done tons of research on this because the neural memories actually grooved over. But the other thing is that neural pruning is done. So we take in all kinds of sensory data that needs to get pruned out at night. This is why you get brain foggy. It's like defragging the hard drive is what's happening while we sleep. So we get brain fog if we don't get enough sleep because there's too many micro neurons that picked up the light over here, and those all get cut off because I don't need to have any long-term memory or any memory traces of these lights particularly. So those neural paths that start to get formed to get pruned. Neural pruning, well, here I talked about it. And this is why people will go into psychosis if they don't get enough sleep. It's why sleep deprivation is actually a form of torture. Psychosis means loss of touch with reality, going psychotic or psychosis, which is different from psychopath. Psychopath is someone who doesn't feel guilt or remorse. And psychosis is when people do not, they lose touch with reality. So let's look at this. Most people know somebody who's experienced a hallucinogen before, and they might have some hallucinations. Auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations. So they're seeing things, elephants on the wall or whatever. But they're not psychotic because they know they're hallucinations. Psychotic is when they think they're real, which doesn't happen very often with people taking hallucinogens. That rarely happens, but it does occasionally happen. A person can go psychotic, and so now they think the pink elephants are real, right? So this is when you hear about people jumping off of buildings because they thought they were Superman. They went into a psychotic state and they thought they really were, whereas most of the time people realize they're just having a hallucination type thing. Okay, so without sleep, because of the neural pruning of the extra, we will go into a state of psychosis if we miss too many days of sleep. Like after 4 days of no sleep, we'll start to experience psychosis. And emotional balance is a major thing that happens while we sleep. Our emotions are re-regulated. So have any of you noticed yourselves getting crankier or more irritable whenever you are sleep deprived, right? So we tend to do that because of that's another function that happens during sleep. So all of these things happen during sleep, and they happen during different phases of sleep. So every hour and a half, you go through these 5 stages of sleep. Well, actually, you go through 4. This is when you're first starting to fall asleep, stage 1. And if you look at the brain waves, these are EEG picture of brain waves. You can look at this just like it was a volume dial on a stereo. So this is kind of busy, a lot of activity going on, right? And here the waves get slower and slower. So the length of the wave is slowing, that they're slowing down. And now there's more space between the waves. So each of these stages, we're going into deeper and deeper sleep here. We're dropping down into deeper sleep. And then this is stage 4 sleep. This is when the waves are the slowest. There's the most space between. And the high length actually means that the wave is really slow. Your brain is very quiet in delta sleep. Right. So your brain during this sleep, this is when the immune system is most functioning, is in this phase of sleep. So this is every hour and a half, you'll go through these stages. And then this is stage 4. This is REM dreaming sleep, when rapid eye movement, when your eyes go back and forth. If you see somebody in REM, you might see their eyes going back and forth really fast. This is that stage of sleep. And about 85 or more % of the time when you wake somebody, when they're in this phase of sleep, they will remember a dream. And then you loop back to about stage 2, and you continue to go through the cycles of sleep. So in REM sleep is when things are very active. They're just as active as in waking life, and we're processing the memories and the emotions of the day. This is when the emotional cleansing kind of goes on. We're also paralyzed during REM sleep. It's called sleep paralysis. So you can toss and turn in your bed during these 3 phases of sleep. And remember, we do this every 90 minutes. We run through these stages, and REM gets longer and longer as the night progresses. And when you've had enough REM is when you tend to wake up. So basically, when your body has been through enough of these REM stages to feel cleansed, that would be a natural sleep cycle, nothing interrupting you waking up. So you're only paralyzed, physically paralyzed in this stage because we're processing emotions. And so we would act them out and flail them about, and we're having dreams. So to prevent us from acting out our dreams, we're paralyzed during stage 5, the REM stage of sleep. So that's what's going on. That's why we have all these negative impacts from not getting enough sleep. And it's really nice to tune into your own body and get calibrated for sleep. One of the options for, like, if this was something you wanted to focus on and learn more about, there's a wonderful podcast by David Huberman, who's over at Stanford, who's a sleep researcher, who has some brilliant hacks. And we'll look at a few of them here for just some basic things that you can do to help your sleep be a little bit better, in addition to doing the heart resonance breathing when you lie down to go to bed, so that you put your body into a deep state of relaxation. You can fall asleep better. Micro sleeps are when you almost fall asleep during the day, and that means that you have sleep debt, which means that your body is waiting for you. Owe the body some sleep, right? We've exerted energy during daytime that we need to make up by putting some time into sleep. So they can take over consciousness. And because driving creates a kind of meditative state with the Hakala eyes, like I mentioned to you, it can put people to sleep. So you want to be very careful. You're much better off pulling over and taking a nap for a little while and then getting back on the road than trying to fight through being too tired and driving while you're sleeping. So make a commitment to yourself about that. It's super important. This is the Epworth sleepiness scale that lets you know how sleep deprived you might be. You can see here that the scale is, what chance do you have of falling asleep doing these things? And then you can just add them up, right? So if you have a moderate chance of falling asleep during this lecture, which would be number 3, right? You can, and the first one is sitting and reading, right? So you add up the numbers from the Epworth scale and you get a sense of how overtired you are, right? The higher it is, the more sleepy you are, and we need to catch up on our sleep. Now, we all have different cycles of sleep, different biorhythms of sleep. Some people are early birds. We have any early birds here? And some people are night owls. So the amount of sleep we need varies, but it averages about 7 to 9 hours a night for most people, the vast majority of people, like 85 to 90%. There are a few short sleepers and a few people who need a little bit more, but usually not much more than 9. This is the variation that most people have. And you can see that we need more sleep at different stages of life. So when we're younger, like an infant needs to sleep about 14 to 15 hours. The growth hormone is released while we're sleeping as well, while we're sleeping and while we're being touched. So for the growth hormone to set in space, we all need a little bit more sleep in our childhood years. You can see the basic chart there. So whether we're an early bird, how many of you are early birds? You get up early in the morning? Couple. And night owls stay up late, natural sleep cycles to stay up late. You start feeling awake about night owls start feeling awake about 7 or 8 p.m. And it's a biorhythm. And you can really discover your biorhythm if you go camping. And the reason is because you can see here, these are the peak times for larks and owls, right? So teens and young adults have leaned toward being night owls. It's just a natural part. It doesn't mean everybody does, but it tends to be that. And then you sort of calibrate. So night owls tend to feel, it's when you feel most awake, when you feel most alert, when you're best doing homework. Early birds tend to be best doing homework and cognitive tasks in the morning. Night owls like to do cognitive tasks in the late afternoon or early evening, right? That's when their brain feels most awake and alert. So you can pay attention to when your brain feels most awake and alert compared to when your body feels most awake and alert. Okay, so you can see from an evolutionary point of view, this is the distribution curve that shows that most people fall in the middle, and then there's always outliers on any trait like sleep tendencies. So you can see when we lived in small tribes like this, that it would be very valuable for us to have somebody awake at all times to help guard the tribe, right? So it makes sense for nature to wire some of us to stay up really late and wire others of us to get up really early. So the ones that are staying up really late, and they do find the hunter-gatherer tribes, people do stay up really late. They don't go to bed always super early. They can stay up between, like up to 11 to 1 a.m. in the morning, or even later for some of the night owl members of the tribe. So there's somebody in the tribe who's fairly close to wakefulness at all times. And as I mentioned, it really helps to go camping, since light reduces melatonin production and disrupts sleep. So this is a major thing about sleep and light, is that you can think about these two chemicals are playing an interactive game in our bodies. During the day, to have alertness, we need serotonin that helps us feel alert and awake and gives us the ability to focus. And then at night, serotonin is stimulated by the light hitting the pituitary gland, which is right about here in the middle of your brain. So right around where your nose is, in the middle of your brain, back straight here to the ridge of your nose is the pituitary gland. And that gland is tuned to the sun. And so when it sees the sun, when the sun hits it, it starts to release wake up chemicals into your body. So light stimulates the pituitary gland. In order for the pituitary gland to stimulate melatonin, the lights need to be off. And everybody produces melatonin at different rates. So some of you produce melatonin really fast. Some of you produce melatonin, takes longer produce, longer for you to build up enough melatonin to become sleepy, right? So this is just natural tendencies. And then many people are in the middle somewhere. This is how long you have to wait in a moderately dark room in order for enough melatonin, because melatonin will not happen unless it's moderately dark, low light. So you want to turn your lights off at night around you. You can still use a screen, but keep the lights off and then put a blue light on the screen or something like that. So it's the light that calibrates our biological clock. And this is the pituitary gland, and there's a little gland by the pituitary gland, see right here, called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. I just use Mary Poppins, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious to remind me. And it's the one that tells us. So when you first wake up in the morning, you want to get whatever it is you like to drink and go outside and get some sun on your suprachiasmatic nucleus. So the process starts of waking up your brain. You want to sit outside. One of the best things you can do to calibrate your sleep, surprisingly, is to be out in the morning when you wake up, spend 15 minutes outside with direct sun, better if it's actually outside than through a window, but worst case scenario, through a window. And then at sunset, because the brain is also targeted to register the fading light of sunset as part of its cue to begin the ratchet back period, right? So it can help you deal with the sleep. So this is just a more detailed slide that shows you the suprachiasmatic nucleus there, sort of a direct beeline back from the third eye. And it's attuned to sunlight, and light will stop melatonin production. Now, for some people, any light, a hint of light will stop melatonin production. Other people, they can have a little bit of light and their brain will still produce melatonin at night. So you'll have to tune into because of the distribution curve, you'll have to sort of tune into your own style that way, right? So this is a way to get some blue light filters, which sort of hacks, you can throw them on your phone and on your computer. They're very common nowadays. which reduces the light that most wakes up the pituitary gland, so you can start producing melatonin better at night. It's good to have these on, after 10. Let the blue light filters take over. And if you're going to watch TV, have yourself at a good distance away from the TV. You can catch up on sleep debt with naps. So they find that naps, and you want to look at your own, everybody has a schedule of naps. Like some people, naps are terrible. Other people, 10 minutes. Other people can take naps anytime. But just realize that if you're tired, if you're overtired, you can see that, it's like you've withdrawn more money from the bank of your physical reserves then your body can manage for very long without needing to recover the sleep. And naps are a method of recovering the sleep. If you nap for 90 minutes, you're going a full cycle. So you'll get a full cycle in of, the sleep cycles, right? Of the 4 stages of sleep after the first one of kind of falling asleep. So what this shows is that, based on, everybody has a different way of mapping, but essentially, and this is kind of complicated looking in terms of a biological clock, but you can think about your own biological clock in terms of 3 basic things. Whether you notice whether you steer where you feel best, physically best, about whether you go to bed late or early, which one you are. And second is to notice when you're most cognitively awake during the day. It's helpful to organize your day. We usually have things that we need to do in our day that entail thinking and cognitive load. And then we have things that we do in our day that entail physical activity, right? So notice when you feel most physically strong during the day. This is your own personal biological clock, and you're just tuning in. And it may vary over time slightly, but also notice when you feel most cognitively. And if you can, stack your work around that, because we all have time periods of peak cognitive and lesser cognitive alertness. And it really helps to organize your study when you're cognitively most alert, and not fight yourself, not fight your own biological clock. At this hour, almost all people are going through a dip in energy, a dip in physical energy and a dip in cognitive energy. It goes on for about an hour, hour and a half, somewhere between 1 and 4, and it depending on, or 12 and 4, depending on people's when they got up and when they go to bed, their cycle. But it's normal. It's sort of like it's our siesta period. Our temperature goes down a little bit, and that helps you fall asleep. For your temperature to go down a little bit, that helps trigger the go to sleep response. So sleep hacks, I already mentioned, get outside and have breakfast with the sun. Wake up it'll wake up the serotonin in your brain and flip off the melatonin and help you not feel so sleepy. Find your rhythm. It helps very much. A major sleep hack is to try to go to bed and wake up at about the same time, whatever you pick, but try to turn it into a ritual for yourself, whether it's 1 in the morning until 11 in the morning, whatever it is for you. See if you can't turn that into as much of a routine, and dim as many lights as you can at night. Just turn them all off. You can just put in those little night light things, sensor lights that they have at the dollar store, and put those in so you can see a little bit, and just keep really low light. And then you can use the breathing meditation to train your brain to fall asleep, so you don't waste time in bed before falling asleep. Because if you do that 5-minute relaxation, heart rate variability, HERV breathing, which again, I'll do a video for, so you can listen to it. I'll post some sleep. It really helps to facilitate going to sleep. So a reflection for you to consider writing on your personal journal is, how would you like, based on what you learned, what did you learn in here that you would like to do to take better care of yourself through sleep? Is there any kind of change that what you learned so far has inspired you to make, right? What is something that you would like to do? And over time, I've incorporated all these hacks into my life, and I love them all. They've helped greatly. These little sleep hacks, the information about what sleep does is to help us realize how valuable it is, that you're not doing nothing. Your brain is doing an enormous amount while you sleep. Remember, it's taking care of emotions, processing emotions from the day. It's your immune system is fixing things. That's why a lot of times you'll feel the immune function symptoms at night. Like when you get a fever or something at night, because the body will work, the immune system will work more at night. So immune repair, cognitive function, neural pruning back neurons that aren't necessary, that would get in the way of us being able to think clearly. Okay, all those things are the value of sleep. So it's worth investing a little time and energy into hacking our sleep a little bit. Okay, so exercise, one of the things they realize is that we biologically, you've heard of the paleo diet and our evolutionary history, we're sort of designed to go into a burst of energy, run fast from something for a short period of time and get out of breath once a day or twice a day, right? And another really good way of doing it is what you did, Isabel, which is that long, slow walk, right? That 11 miles, a long hike. And that does the same thing. It really gets the blood moving through the body. So whether you dance around the house with your kids and get a little breathless, anything like that but what you want to try to do is get a little bit breathless at least once a day. All right, to move the stress hormones through and out of your body and into your bloodstream. So finding a way to jump around and play around. I have one of those little jumper things that you jump on that gets my heart rate up a little bit, right? So finding a way to play. You can do, I walk up a hill. There's a hill I walk up, here in this area, so that you can feel it. It's sort of like slushing out your body or flushing out your body. So movement, and one of the images that I like to hold on in my head about movement is the idea of being kind of wild, right? Feeling yourself like my dog, right? Or like your kids, or like puppies, right? Tune into those bursts of energy. And I know you guys are already aware that there are 3 kinds of exercises that we tend to need to be doing. And most of us tend to do one of them or 2 of them pretty well and then miss on the other 1 or 2. So you might want to notice which one of these do you already do? And maybe you could throw that into the chat. Which ones of these are you already good at? Are you already have pretty much incorporated into your life pretty well? And then which is the one that you would like to start adding? And we can add in those atomic habit steps, right? We can add in small steps. Like I hadn't been doing strength training. So my son and I recently started a push-up challenge. And I do the push-ups on the wall and he does them on the ground. But we challenge ourselves every other day and we're trying to bump it up. I'm up to 35 push-ups now from like 15. And when we do strength training, or any kind of thing like this, one thing I think is super important to realize is that we're not just training the larger muscles, but also the ligaments and tendons. So it's really good to start. Don't push yourself to move too fast. So it's helpful to realize that your brain loves the gym, our attention span, reaction time, all these things improve. We have better vocabulary. It's because of the oxygen and blood flow moving through and cleansing out the cortisol. So whatever we can do to get ourselves leaping about, right? At least once a day, something. And it increases dopamine in the brain, Dopamine is the neurotransmitter related to goal seeking, when we feel like we're on track with a goal. And it reduces anxiety and depression because it's getting rid of cortisol. It's flushing ourselves out of our muscles. There's really no other way to get it out. I mean, it's just going to move out slowly. If you go through a stressful experience and you can move around and run your body around, you're much less likely to have PTSD than if you're frozen still. This was a big finding of the last 5 years, was realizing that when people were paralyzed or frozen after a traumatic event versus able to move and do something to save themselves and their body had freedom of movement, they had much less likelihood of having PTSD. So finding a way to inspire ourselves to get moving so that we can have, and then walking in nature work beautifully together. You can see here just a short little walk after you eat or short little walk during the day, 10 minutes can even boost us up, right? So it's pretty easy to find ways, your own unique way to get your body moving. One of the reasons why nature makes us feel so good is because of the hakala eyes, the relaxed eyes that happen while we're walking. And that's something that you can even reflect on as you're walking, is taking in the whole thing, widening your perspective as you walk. So how are you feeling about the exercise part of your body? And is there something you would like to add or change about your exercise routine? Go ahead and take a moment to reflect on that. And then here is, in the assignment this week, you're invited to pick one of these topics, the one that you're most interested in cultivating a little bit more in your life, and to learn a little bit more about it and then share that in the discussion. So you'll notice these links are in the slideshow under each topic, depending on what you might want to explore. They're also located in the assignment field. But this one is about 10 ways to incorporate nature in your workout routine. And of course, we're in a really beautiful place to do that here in Chico. We're so fortunate that way. I've been watching videos of people that live in some really harsh places. So nutrition, we're learning that food and mood are directly linked. And it took me a long time to figure out how to eat, because I wasn't a big vegetable person. So I had to spend a lot of time exploring how to make vegetables in ways that I actually liked it, right? But here there's been numerous studies that show that the more calories, saturated fat, and salt, sodium, that it tends to bring our mood down, short-term high, longer-term low. And so finding a balance of what to eat, grains, berries, greens, what you're supposed to eat, lean meats. The trick is to do it incrementally. Add a little bit incrementally, right? And I like to do, I have this thing called the substitute diet. So these are just ideas of things to eat to boost mood. These next couple of slides just show you some of the different kinds of things that help. This is the ideal holistic diet that needs to be part of your life. So changing our diet is a matter of finding things that we love that are in the healthy categories, that are easy to eat, right? So that's the trick. And then substituting things that you need to stop. Like, for example, every so often I go back onto my Coca-Cola binge, right? And I have a Coca-Cola a day. And it's usually when I get stressed and tired and I shift over from my tea and my sparkling orange. This is basically sparkling water with vitamin C in it, right? So, and I'll go for that. And then that lasts for like 3 weeks. And then I have to shift back off of it. So to me, it's the substitute diet is the key. I don't like deprivation. I don't like depriving myself of stuff. So I like to find a substitute for that thing I love. How can I do it a little more healthier is the question, right? And then I just sort of nudge myself there a little bit at a time. So finding ways to incorporate these things into your diet is another dimension. I want to emphasize magnesium, a calcium magnesium supplement. If I was to say any kind of supplement for lowering anxiety, we need, a lot of us tend to be low on calcium and magnesium. So taking a calcium magnesium supplement or eating an abundance of these foods, which actually go really well together. Spinach and beans and pumpkin seeds and rice and Thousand Island dressing is one of my mainstays. I have to stop wiggling. I'm getting excited. All right, so you guys know this already because it's ad infinitum in the media. But what you basically want to do if you were going to be focusing on nutrition for this week, where you wanted to make a shift in that, is you want to find your own tweak, right? The thing that, the best shift that would have the most bang for the buck in your diet. And it could be relate to, the slide's just about, oh, here's the substitute method. So notice the foods that you like to eat. Like, here's one. My husband was eating, he wanted to lose weight and he was eating a lot of Tostitos tortilla chips. So I started baking them, right? So now he has them baked. I just bake tortillas. I cut them up, rinse them with water, throw them in the oven and bake them. And so that cuts the salt way down. That cuts the fried part way down with the crap oil type thing, right? So that's an example of the substitute diet. And I live my life by the substitute diet. I should publish a book on it, even though. All right, so how would you like to take better care of yourself with nutrition? My current thing is I'm working on cutting back caffeine. I think I mentioned that to you guys. And I managed to cut 1 cup out. So I'm down from 4 to 3, from 4 cups a day to 3. And I'm going to get down to 2 by changing one of those into decaf, because I have 1 in the morning. Well, actually 2.5, I think. I have 1 in the morning, and then I have another half cup in the morning, and then I have 1 in the afternoon. So I've gotten down from 2.5 to 4. Have you guys made any improvements on your stuff? No, yes, kind of. So what I'm working on now is water, right? I'm trying to get enough water in there, right? So, because I had a headache for a couple of days. Like, no, a lot of times that's water. All right, so breath, we already did the breath. When you breathe in, you're activating the sympathetic system. It takes energy to process the air in the lungs. When you breathe out, you're activating the parasympathetic relaxation system. So if you breathe out a little longer than you breathe in, the parasympathetic can catch up and help ground us, right? You'll feel really calm. And I want to strongly encourage you to practice the heart rate resonance breathing, which simply is a matter of breathing out a little longer. And over time, like if you do it over 5 minutes, you want to drop that breath so that you're breathing in and out of your belly, right? So shallow breathing creates anxiety. So we can create this feedback loop just from rushing. And the same thing with holding breath. Like sometimes when I'm feeling a lot of pressure or tension, I'll catch myself actually holding my breath, which is like, no, breathe, right? Okay, keep it going. All right, and so we talked about it really is most efficient to breathe in and out of your nose, but you can also breathe really slowly out of your mouth, like you're breathing out through a straw. So tons of toxins get released when we deep breathe. And I think this is the same breathing exercise I already taught you. Okay, so you're just breathing out 1 count longer or 2 counts longer, right? And counting while you do it is really good. Put on some beautiful music and count. And you can remember the Hakala eyes. So that gives you something to tune into, and relax the pressure points, like consciously relax your jaw and feel the space in your eyes. And I'll post a video on this. This is the Navy SEALs doing box breathing. Now, box breathing, this is a good one if you feel yourself too amped up, too like you get frustrated or angry at something and you want to calm yourself down. It's real simple. You just breathe in to the count of 4, hold to the count of 4, and you can push the energy down a little bit. That sort of slows the heartbeat down a little bit. And then exhale to the count of 4, and then hold to the count of 4. The hardest part is holding at the exhale. And what that does do, though, then your in-breath will be deeper, and you can breathe in from the lower part of your body, more and more as you go. And this creates a very stable interior. So it's kind of a rescue breath, a really nice rescue breath if you feel yourself getting anxious and you want to shift out of it. And here's a video where you can watch Mark Devine, who's one of the most decorated Navy SEALs in the US. He teaches meditation now. See, it's everywhere. So how would you like to breathe, and what cues can you use to remind yourself to practice deep breath? So I like to do this. Look at that cute kid. I like to do this every time I get impatient at the grocery store, or I'm in line anywhere, or I feel like I have to listen to somebody talk and I don't want to, right? I'm feeling agitated. It's usually me. It's not because they aren't saying something valid. It's because I'm just feeling jumpy. So those are wonderful cues that I use to drop into the breathing. And then always when I lie down, I practice it. And I want to challenge you guys to do that and see how you feel at the end of the week. And then this is a very beautiful video clip with Thich Nhat Hanh about caring for your body. It might be a little long for us to watch. See how long it is. But Thich Nhat Hanh is it's 15 minutes, which is a little bit long, but we'll watch a few minutes of it so you can just get a feel. This beautiful man, he's so sweet. He was nominated by Martin Luther King for the Nobel Peace Prize. He is during the Vietnam War, and he has Plum Village, a teaching village with meditation. So let's just listen to a few minutes, and talks to us about making friends with our body. So we're not doing these things to our body, but we're actually developing a relationship with our body. So we'll close by listening to this for a few minutes.
In a state of destruction, mind and body are not together. Our body is here, but our mind is elsewhere. In the past, in the future, in our projects, caught by anger, caught by fear. So mind and body are not together. We are not truly there. We are not living our life truly. So this exercise is to bring the mind home to the body and to restore your oneness of body and mind. Holiness is what that is, not illness. The mind becomes the embodied mind and make you alive, and it can help you to get in touch with your body. Your body is a wonder. And when your mind is back to your body and recognize your body, you are truly there, and you can begin to live truly your life. Many of us live in a virtual life. Suppose you work, you are with your computer. You might get lost completely in the virtual world of the computer. You forget that you have a body. You forget that the planet Earth is there with all the wonders. You do not live in reality. And many of us have to spend so many hours in that world. On the 14th of September, our Sangha went to Northern California and practiced one day with the people at the Google Center. All the Googlers came together and we practiced guided meditation, sitting meditation, walking meditation, mindful eating, and so on. Total relaxation also. And many Googlers try for the first time live with them deeply with the body, with the breath, and become aware of every breath, every step. Most of them work more than 15 hours a day with their computer. And they do not have a lot of chance to go back to their body, to be with their body, and to feel the presence of their body and the presence of the environment around them.
So you get a sense for that. I'm trying to keep us at being done at 3:15. So he talks about this, and what the takeaway from it, I want to encourage us to embrace is the idea of loving coming home to our body and taking care of our body like we care about it, rather than imposing these things onto our body. So tuning in and caring for is the encouragement from that talk. So that closes our talk today, everyone. I'm so glad that you were here. I want to express my appreciation and invite you to close the chat by writing a favorite thing that we covered today. What was something, a takeaway that you enjoyed? And then wish your colleagues a wonderful weekend, a great week. And thank you all.